Hey, Mom and Dad. For all of you who are not Mom and Dad, I do these for my mom and dad because it's hard for them sometimes to read my blogs where they are, but they can watch them on television. So this one is called The Blind Allegiance of the Pro-Choice Movement. While we offered hope and help to women other than abortion on the sidewalks of the abortion center, gotta move that back so you can see me and not up my nostrils. The pro-choice crowd mocked and laughed as usual. I ignore them most of the time and stick to my message. However, what they say is a barometer of what some people believe, and I like to have research and facts in hand to help dispel myths. For example, one was adamant that a recent study showed only 5% of women regret their abortion. When I got home, I looked at that study she cited. Not just the Time magazine or Planned Parenthood's take on the study, but the study itself. The sample was not a blind, random sample, but was comprised of women who agreed to do the study and who were paid after each follow-up interview. This is problematic from the get-go. Approximately 37% of eligible women completed the study. Never do I see the researchers pose the question what might make that 37% agree to do this study, but not the other 63%. The answer is obvious to me. The women who are most deeply traumatized by the abortion are the ones least likely to want anything further to do with the source of their trauma. I sure would not have wanted to complete such a study. The sample size was 667 women. In the USA this year alone, there have been about 780,000 abortions. Worldwide this year, about 34 million. How any legitimate researcher could make a sweeping generalization that women do not regret abortion from a sample of 667 self-selected women boggles my mind. Of that sample, only 633 completed the full 3 years of interviews. 95% of that small sample size reported not regretting abortion. Thus, from a self-selected sample of 633 women out of 34 million women who abort each year, the researchers concluded that women do not regret abortions. They also found that women who had prior abortions reported less negative emotions. Now, isn't that interesting? This may give a greater understanding of those most likely to participate in this study. Listen to this tidbit quoted from the end of the research study. Loss to follow-up did not differ by study group, sociodemographic characteristics, nor baseline decision rightness or negative emotions. However, women feeling more relief and happiness at baseline when the study began, right after the abortion, were less likely to be lost. In other words, to follow through with completing the 3 years of interviews. In other words, those who felt relief and happiness after the abortion were the ones most likely to complete the research study. Again, no conclusion about how the study sample was thus biased from the beginning and likely to give the researchers only results of those who did not regret abortion as opposed to a sample representative of all who abort. Let me state the findings another way. About a third of the women who aborted in this small sample of abortion clinics who agreed to do the study, as far as I could discern, there was nothing to determine if there was a difference between those who chose to do the study and those who did not. Out of that third who agreed to do the study, the 3-year follow-up was only completed with 633 women. Most of those who provided 3-year interviews were those who did not regret their abortion, showing sample bias. Those who did regret were less likely to complete the study. In other words, 633 women total said they did not regret their abortion. That is 0.0018% of all women who abort. This is the finding upon which the pro-choice crowd was crowing proves 95% of women do not regret abortion. Now let's look at a study or studies in Finland from 2015 and 2016, more recent, by the way, than this 2015 study that claimed 95% of women regret abortion. In the Finland study, they looked at national medical records. This was a truly random sample selection, since all medical records of suicide victims were studied. In that study, they found that women who aborted were 6 times more likely to commit suicide than women who gave live birth. That sure sounds to me like women regretted their abortion. And then I give you the reference. Other studies show regret plagues 25 to 50% of women who abort and manifests itself in many areas of physical and emotional trauma. And then I give you the reference on the blog of where you can go to see the description of those studies and references. What this study does not examine or even mention is that even if women do not regret their abortion, a stance which I reject as being proven, is that what should determine the validity of the taking of innocent human life in the womb. The mark of a sociopath is a lack of regret. Does that make his decision to harm others valid or moral? One of my counselor friends challenged the pro-choice women to stay till the women who were aborting began to leave. Watch their faces as we do. Then decide if they believed that flawed research study with sweeping generalizations and conclusions based on a small, biased sample. She laughed and left before the wave of abortive women began coming out. The pro-choice advocates usually do depart early. When they have successfully ushered past us, the women arriving to abort, preventing them as best they can from talking to us or receiving our resources, they leave. I stay till about 1 o'clock usually, and yesterday was there till 1:30. Several women, as usual, drove out with pain etched on their face or tears streaming down their cheeks. One stopped in the driveway as I approached, and she rolled down her window. "Did you go through with it?" I asked. She nodded and then began crying. I clutched her hand, which she reached out to me. "Take this booklet," I said. "It will help you through this. My name and number is on it, and you may call me any time. May I pray with you?" Crying too hard to speak, she nodded, gripping my hand as though it were a lifeline. As I prayed with her, the security guard of the abortion center came over, interrupting my prayer as tears coursed down the woman's face. He told her she could not block the driveway. Not a single car was coming or going other than hers. I finished the prayer quickly and squeezed her hand. "Please call." "Thank you, honey," she said. Not a single pro-choice person remained to offer comfort. Their job was over that day, as the door closed on the last patient entering the building where her baby would die. John 16:13. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all the truth, for he will not speak on his own authority, but whatever he hears he will speak, and he will declare to you the things that are to come.